regular guy here has a video. He says he met you. Is it true? Yeah, we did meet. I did see him in Cagayan de Oro at the coffee shop, like he said. And then I met him in Dumaguete.
Scotty Boy has lunch with Gio in the Philippines. Let me tell you about this. So Gio divulged some of the info that he uses only for his private members. So it was the very first morning that I woke up in Dumaguete. So I sat outside and I wanted to venture out and find myself some coffee. This was early. It was about 6 a.m. So when I set out, my original plan was to get a coffee at the Why Not. I wanted to check out the Why Not. But while walking to Why Not, I was in downtown and I came across Tom and Tom's. I took a peek inside. I knew Tom and Tom's from Korea. It always has comfortable chairs. So I just decided, hey, I'll just head inside Tom and Tom's.
The Why Not is right here. You can see it's in front of the boardwalk here, but I didn't make it this far. Side note, this is Ned's favorite hangout, the Bogarts. Okay, that's Ned from Philippine Dreams. That's his favorite hangout there. But I didn't make it this far. I went to Tom and Tom's right here. Now, I came down this road right here on my first walk, and I walked down here. This is why I came across Tom and Tom's, and that's why I walked in here, because it was sort of the first place I came across. The first coffee shop I came across. The Why Not is down here.
So I was sitting inside Tom and Tom's. So it popped in my head out of the blue that Gio was in town. I knew he was in town from his vlogs. So I messaged Gio. I had him on my Facebook Messenger. You know, I just messaged him. I said, hey, Gio, I'm the guy from the CDO coffee shop. Do you want to meet up? I mean, you know, I saw him at this CDO Uptown coffee shop where he took it out. Anyway, he replied very quickly. He said, sure. I mean, he's a friendly guy. So Gio, he suggested that we get lunch at the Cafe Racer, if you know where that is. I had no idea where it was. So he gave me directions where it was while chatting. That meeting was set up for a couple hours later. So, I mean, we still had 2 or 3 hours until meeting time. And so I decided to, finish my coffee and head out, walk around. This was my first morning in downtown Dumaguete.
So I was in here. I was sitting at the table right there. Not the outside table here, just inside right there. I was just looking out the window. That's where I was, where I messaged the world famous Gio, asked him if he wanted to meet. And so, we made a connection there. And where we were going to meet was Cafe Racer. It was this way, down this road here, but I knew it wasn't going to be for a while. So I got my computer and I walked down here, and I didn't know where I was going. It was my first morning in Duma. I just wanted to walk around and check it out.
I love the beach being right next to the downtown area. I like Dumaguete.
Here is the ocean, and here is downtown.
Anyway, I'm just walking around the downtown area, killing time and getting familiar with Duma. So, I mean, I was walking around and I happened to look under, some tarp. There was some motorcycles in there. And so as I walking next to this tarp, why don't I show you some footage?
See Gio, before meeting him, just spontaneously, I was just walking around town. I had that couple hours to kill. And I came across Gio, but let me show you exactly what happened. It was a bit... Okay, so I just muted it there. Okay, so here is exactly where I was, where Gio is. And Gio was inside here. Now, at the time, they had some blue tarp hanging down here, right? For some reason, and there was a little slit opening right here between the tarp and this thing. And I was walking by, I just happened to look in there, and Gio was over here, I guess, purchasing another month of his scooter. And so when I walked by, it was a split second, a fraction of a second. And I remember walking up this road here thinking, was that Gio? But I couldn't look back or anything. It was all covered here. But I was just wondering, is that Gio? I'll ask him when I saw him. And it turns out it was Gio.
So I'm thinking like, no, it couldn't have been Gio. I wasn't 100% sure it was Gio. And I'm not going to like say, hey, Gio, and then it's not Gio. So, I just played it safe. I just kept walking. So I figured, I'll ask him if it was him when I see him for lunch. And it turns out it really was him. So anyway, I'm walking around a while and it's coming up time to, meet the world famous Gio. So I start heading back in that direction. Cafe Racer is not in the downtown area. It's 5 minutes outside the downtown area by foot.
And over to the left is Cafe Racer.
So Gio and I, we actually show up at Cafe Racer at the same time. Take a look at this footage.
Cafe Racer. I came down by foot. I walked down this road here. And just as I arrived here, Gio had his scooter coming up this way. And so, Gio parked about right here. And I walked right down here. He turned off his scooter. We said hello and we walked right in this door right here.
So anyway, it was good seeing Gio again in person. So this place, Gio recommended this place. He recommended the place and he recommended a specific meal. So we both had that meal. It was like a steak with mashed potatoes. So this is what he recommended and it was really good. So anyway, we're talking over lunch.
So one of the things we talked about during lunch was I was telling him about, my love, the girl I was in love with, the Bohol girl. And so I was telling him about how, I'm sending her money and, I know she's lying about some stuff. And so check out this clip. He mentioned me in one of his live streams.
In fact, I was just chatting with the guy yesterday. Hopefully he's not watching this. I don't mean it to be insulting, but he was telling me how he would send his girl money and she would lie and say, okay, he would send money and say, this is for you to get identification, so you have an ID card. And she would lie and say she did it. And then he found out that she said that she would give it to her grandma. Then he would give her money for a phone, but she never bought a phone. She used it for food, and she keeps lying to him, and he keeps sending money, and he just keeps saying, well, she's young and she's poor, so I understand, but she's lying to you, and she's.
Yeah, so that's not exactly what happened, but it basically it's the general idea. And I was the sucker for the Bohol girl. It happens to everyone at least once in our lives.
So Gio divulged some of the info that he uses only for his private members. To be honest, I don't have any recollection of what we actually talked about over lunch, just because it was 3 years ago. But there is one specific thing that I do remember. So Gio knows of 2 towns that are on Negros Island, and these are sort of small towns, closer to Bacolod than Dumaguete, but they're small towns, and the only thing in the town is a college. Okay, so you see where I'm going with this. So, a lot of these college babes, they get bored. And so there's only one thing to do when you're bored. You hang out with your boyfriend. So he said to me, if you're interested in meeting babes, just rent an apartment in one of these college towns and walk around and you can guess what's going to happen. So honestly, I forgot the 2 towns that he did mention specifically, but they are on Negros, closer to Bacolod. I do remember that. But to be honest, I'm sure there are these kind of situations, like a small college town. I'm sure there's 1,000 of them all over the Philippines. So I'm going to tell you a story about banging in a small town. Because you know, Scotty Boy's got a story for everything. But this is a story about a Filipina's S adventure, H adventure, okay? In a small town in the Philippines. It's a small college town. So let me tell you this story. It's just a side story I wanted to slip in there. So there was an LDR that I was talking to for a while, okay? Now, I never met this girl in person, but it did get a bit serious. She was from Bacolod. Her sister was in Canada after marrying a Canadian guy. And so this Canadian sis, this girl in Canada, she messaged me and she says, hey, I'm the sister of, the girl you're talking to. So she was concerned about her talking to a foreign guy and, she wanted to make sure I was a decent guy. Anyway, the point to bringing this story up is that this girl I was talking to, she was one of these girls who was in one of these college towns in Bacolod. I'm sure it's one of the ones Gio was mentioned because it was up there the two were up there near Bacolod where she went to uni. So this girl, she's in a college town. There's nothing else there except the college. So she told me what went on there, and she did say specifically there was a lot of banging going on. She didn't say those words specifically, but that's what she meant. She said it was basically bored college kids. You study, you bang, and when you got a break, you go home and visit your family. Anyway, since this girl that I'm talking to, she had a sister in Canada. This sister was paying for this girl's college, and she was paying for her own private apartment. So she wasn't doing room sharing. She was spoiling her sister, basically, getting her own place. So, but the girl told me, she always had boyfriends over because she had her own place. She also said, luckily she never got pregnant. So I'm thinking, okay, so the sis is concerned about Scotty Boy, but she's not concerned about the sis having boyfriend after boyfriend in her apartment. Well, the sister, she probably didn't know, but now you and I know this is what happens in these small college towns that Gio recommended. Okay, side story finished. But, I just wanted to say that, I felt like saying to the sister, okay, you worried about me. You're the idiot who got her own place so she could bang an unlimited amount of guys. Okay, you should have had her staying with a roommate, a girl, okay, but you had to get her own place, okay? So that made her popular with the guys. She was probably the only girl with her own place, so she had all these boyfriends coming over. She was banging them all, and then she's looking for a guy like Scotty Boy to marry her. Anyway, that specific girl, we didn't meet. We were talking, but what happened was she changed her WhatsApp account or whatever, and it was like there was like a few months there where suddenly she messaged me again and said, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I was in Dumaguete. I could have gone up to meet you. But she said, oh, I changed my WhatsApp account. And anyway, there was some reason there because I did message her when I was in Duma, but she never replied. Anyway, that was why. Anyway, that's just how things work out sometimes. I never met that Bacolod girl. And today we have no communication. So anyway, Gio and I, we finished up our meal, and I said to Gio that I never supported his channel. I've never given him a super chat or anything. So, it's my honor to get the meal. So Gio says,
thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. David, thank you so much again for the super chat. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate that.
oh, thanks. I appreciate that. Well, he probably does appreciate it. So anyway, we get up and we make our way back to Gio's scooter. So when we're walking outside, we're in the parking lot here, between the Cafe Racer and his scooter. We're walking to his scooter. And I came and I told him my bright idea for a YouTube channel. I said, hey, why don't you interview other foreigners around Dumaguete? Because, we're all in the same boat here. We all have our own separate stories. I'm kind of curious, what everyone's story is. And Gio said, yeah, I was thinking about doing that. Anyway, that was before the Mark, not Old Dog, New Tricks, what's his name? Every Man Has a Story. It was before Every Man Has a Story. But I said to Gio, hey, I would be interested in watching, but I can't be one of the people you interview. At the time, I wanted nothing to do with YouTube. But in hindsight, it would have been pretty cool to see me back then 3 years ago. I mean, to see myself back there 3 years ago, that would have been pretty cool. But I mean, hey, Gio, I told him I don't want to be interviewed, but Gio, he probably didn't want to interview me anyway. But I mean, if Gio did ask me, I mean, I probably would have said yes, because I'm always a pushover, right? But he never asked me, and it never happened. Anyway, that is the story of meeting the world famous Gio in the Philippines. Duma is a small town, and I did bump into him a few times afterwards over the 2 months that I was there.
Info here. Yeah, so here's the boardwalk. I met Gio one additional time, unplanned. It was inside this coffee shop, Buglas Island. Now, this place is famous for being like a co-worker space. It's a coffee shop. They got beer there too. They're sort of known for fast internet. Now, I heard they went bankrupt, but they look. I mean, the sign is still there. It might still be open. Let me see. The light is still on, although seems like there's electrical wire hanging down here. I don't know if it's still open. If anyone is in Duma, can you please leave a comment? I'm kind of curious about that. But yeah, I met him in here, and one time it was the day before he met Gingeling. I was sitting back here at a long table, and Gio was teaching English to some Filipino guy who was going to immigrate to Canada. He was sitting right here. So anyway, I'm sitting there, but Gio saw me when I walked in. We just nodded. He was busy. But when he was done, he came over to talk to me. He said he's going to Bayawan. So Dumaguete is here and Bayawan is right here. Tomorrow. And I didn't know, I never heard of Bayawan before. But so he showed me on my laptop on Google Maps where he was going. And little did I know at the time, that was the time he was going up to meet Gingeling.
Thank you, Sir God, for the blessings.
So this was a Friday. He met Gingeling on the Saturday. So that was that. And then another time I met Gio, I was walking out of this coffee shop. It was one of my favorite coffee shops, Buglas. I guess it is still open. I'm glad. Okay, maybe it did go bankrupt and it reopened. I was standing here. I was about to cross here. I just finished doing some stuff at the coffee shop, and the G-Man, he was right here. He was walking down this way. I guess going to Buglas. Anyway, I was crossing here, right? He was coming this way, and he yelled, "Hey, Scott!" And so, yeah, I looked over, we had a little wave, and then I kept walking down here.
So this coffee shop was a cool place to grab a coffee. They were known for their fast internet. So Gio told me about it, and then later when, I went home a few days later, I forgot what it was, so I messaged him, what was that coffee shop? Where is it? So he told me over Messenger, and I went to check it out. Because I'm a coffee shop kind of guy. I love going to a coffee shop and opening my laptop and just doing whatever. Anyway, that is the story of Gio and Scotty Boy in Doomy Dooms. I know you're probably disappointed. Not much to say, really. I didn't know him well at the time. But anyway, that's okay because we are done with Doomy Dooms and we are heading up to Angeles in the next vid. I look forward to telling you about the Angeles vids, but it might get me in trouble. I was not a good boy in Angeles. I'm going to tell the story in a bit. Stay tuned, okay? Subscribe, guys. Subscribe. Angeles stories are on their way in a few days or no more than a week, okay? Because I'm busy with my job. The weekend, okay? The weekend, I'm going to pump out the first Angeles vid on the weekend. There'll be about 5 different Angeles vids. I met Philly and the Phils. Tim K. Who did I meet? I banged some chicks up there. Yes, I'm horrible. I know. I'm the worst person. I'm horrible. I know I am. But who else did I meet there? Anyway, great time in Angeles, and the Angeles stories are coming up next. Here we go.